Hey guys, welcome back. Andrew here with Ambient Endeavors. And if you're like me, you might be feeling this kind of active tension in the gear world these days between the classic tube amplifier and the more modernized digital emulations of those amplifiers in pedal form. I've got a room full of amps here that I've collected over the years. I love the feel and the sound of good tube amp, but I've also got a shelf full of some of these digital amp emulator pedals that work really well in the studio here, that are really convenient if you want to take them on the road and you don't have to maintain them or put new tubes in them and things like that. And the technology and the sounds keep getting better and better. So it's kind of this interesting point of tension. I think one that will exist for some time going forward, as I don't see tube amps going away, but I also see the continuation of this evolution of digital amp emulation. And today's pedal is kind of another step in the timeline here. It's the latest from a company over in Australia, Poly Effects, and it is their Ample. It is an ambitious and fun collection of 56 different amps. And I think the cool thing about Ample is that it offers some niche and kind of obscure or boutique circuits in the collection, along with some of those classic traditional circuits that you'd expect from Fender and Vox and Marshall and those kind of legendary amp companies. And so it's a really cool cross section. It's a really cool smattering. It's one of my first experiences with Poly Effects as a company. They've been doing some really cool digital pedals for a number of years now, and always have a really unique approach to the user interface, as you can tell from some of the shots in the intro there. And if you've been familiar with some of their other products, you know. But Ample is kind of a continuation of the interface that they used for their Verbs pedal and maybe one or two others, with a cool touch screen, some really bright and colorful LED feedback for adjusting those controls. And I just think it's a really kind of fun and cool addition to specifically the boutique pedal world, and one that's quite impressive. I think it's a cool collection, a cool smattering of amps, and the sounds are really great. So we're going to walk through some of the features, some of the things that you can do with the Ample. We're going to talk about the different categories of amps that it includes, and then in the sound samples, I'm just going to kind of share maybe one or two amps from most of the categories here that I kind of used or leaned into or liked as I was going through it, and to give you just kind of a feel and a flavor for some of the sounds you can get from it. But again, there's over 50 amps here you can select from, some fun classic and niche circuits there, as well as bass amps. So a lot you can do with Ample, and we're going to dive in here. First off, you have stereo in and out on the top here over TRS. You can run this in either mono in, stereo out, or stereo in, stereo out with the TRS jacks there. You've got MIDI options on the top here with 3.5 millimeter connections, a USB for any future firmware updates and things like that, and then standard 9-volt power here. And across the top, you've got the categories of amps that you can choose from. So you've got 7 different categories with 8 unique circuits in each category. You have a clean, a crunch, a destroy, which is those high gain sounds, classic US, classic UK. You have a Gen X, which is sort of that 90s and 2000s boutique or kind of amps that were hip in that era, and then this category of bass amps. The nice thing about this interface is it's consistent across the board for all the amps. So you have gain, volume, bass, and treble here on the face. If you tap the preset that you're on, you get a secondary set of controls, which can control things like LED brightness, the level of boost that you can engage with this left foot switch, your mids frequency, and also your kind of room element. So a little bit of natural room reverb that you can add or subtract from your amp sounds there. You can also hold down this Poly logo, which gets you into a fine tuning mode. Wherever the levels are at on your face of the pedal, you can go into this fine tune mode and sort of zoom in 10x, I believe it is, and do some kind of micro adjustments to the levels around the point that you had set in the primary level there. So it just kind of allows for a little more fine tuning, allows you to find that sweet spot for some of the sounds that you're going for there. As you saw in the intro sketch, and as you'll see in the sound samples here, the face of this pedal is all touch sensitive and very interactive. And so when you're changing levels, you can just slide your finger up and down on the corresponding column there to adjust the level you're wanting to adjust. Ample has dedicated cabinet simulators that are corresponding to each of the amp models here. If you want to defeat that for some reason and just have your amp model, you can triple tap this destroy control and that will turn on or off the cab simulators. If you do want to run mono into stereo out, you can triple tap the crunch control and that will switch the configuration of the input jack. You also have the opportunity in Ample to run individual amps on each left and right. You can enter a mode to do that where you can get control of each of those amps and fine tune each amp for each side, left and right, which is pretty cool. It's a really fun addition to this kind of digital amp emulation arena. Like I said, with the touchscreen and the kind of vibrant colors and cool logos here, you have a fun user experience to navigate the sounds and the settings. There's some really cool amps included in the catalog and some really solid sounds in there for guitar and for bass. I love that they included that bass catalog, which really allows this to kind of cross over into guitar or bass and make it really useful in each context. You've got some of those fun boutique darlings, amps from companies like Benson, Three Monkeys, Bad Cat, some cool kind of niche and obscure vintage pieces like a 50s WEM combo. You've got a Mad Amp circuit. You have some high watt stuff, some matchless stuff. Just a really kind of fun smattering of sounds that you wouldn't necessarily expect to be in a modeling catalog, but that they threw in here. So we're going to jump over to some sound samples and just kind of hear what you can expect from some of the different amp models here. We're not going to cover them all, but you can get a taste for each of the different categories and some of the sounds you can get and just kind of how you can work your way around the interface too. I'm going to be using my Trent Model 1 that you saw in the intro sketch into a Strymon Volante, onto Strymon Cloudburst for some delay and reverb, and then onto Ample. We're going to go out in stereo to the interface here and just have a look and a listen at what Ample is capable of. Thanks for watching. Please hit subscribe below if you haven't already and keep up to date on the forthcoming videos on the channel. It's a huge support for me. And drop any questions or comments you have below and we can chat about Ample, any of the amps that are included in it, or any of the features or things you've got questions about. We can talk about it there. Let's hear some sounds.